Mineru kind of sucks in Tears of the Kingdom. By the time most players get her, she's just a worse version of the Ultra Hand constructs that you have in your auto build. That's why in most of my challenge runs, I just don't bother picking her up. There's only one problem with that: Seized Construct. This thing was meant to be fought with Mineru, so if you try to fight him on foot, you may start to feel like you don't have many options. Well, I'm here to tell you that you do, it's just that most of them are bad. Starting at level 1 with the absolute worst way to beat Seized Construct without Mineru, we have Throwing Apples. Or really, almost any of the materials in your inventory. They only deal 1 damage, and this thick boy has 20,000 health, so unless you have a couple days to spare, I don't recommend throwing your entire inventory at him. At level 2, you can recall his cannon shots back at him, which usually deal around 15 to 20 damage per shot. With how infrequently he shoots at you, this method may actually be slower than throwing things, but it doesn't cost you any resources, so it's more efficient. At level 3, we have this shitty car that I made. It doesn't deal a lot of damage, and it shocks you, so it's pretty bad. But it is more funnerer than the first 2 levels, so that's a win. At level 4, we have the Marbled Goma Boulders, aka the Hydraulic Press. These are the rocks that Goma flings at you in Phase 2. You can just glue any item to one of the rocks to get it into your auto build. If you can get one of these boulders to blow up next to Seized Construct, it'll deal 28 damage, but you run into issues like him hitting you while you're trying to place it, and him sliding the boulder away from himself before it blows up. Also, it costs 6 Zonai. Wait a minute, let me do some quick math here. Carry the 1. Never mind, this requires more than 4 times the amount of Zonai that it's possible to have in your inventory. So unless you use some duplication glitches in the middle of the fight, this doesn't work. At actual level 4, we have shield surfing into the Seized Construct with any kind of damaging shield. With the Savage Lionel shield, I was able to deal 21 damage with most of my shield surfs. So if you bring a bunch of those and maybe fuse a damaging item to a Hylian shield, this could work. At level 5, we have this Spike Roomba thing. It's slow, it only deals 4 damage, and it's prone to being flipped over. But it's pretty hands-off, so you can just run around while it finishes the fight for you. At level 6, you can just parry him with a damaging shield instead of shield surfing into him. Uses less durability, and you can attack faster. Still pretty slow though. And then moving on to level 7, we finally have Link using a weapon, except it's an unbreakable 2-damage stick. This weapon is really just an example of how slow it is to use normal weapons with normal attacks to slowly whittle him down. He still has 20,000 health, but I think this is possible if you bring in a full inventory of high damage and high durability weapons, especially if you fuse some strong stuff to your weapons. Level 8, for example, is just using a stronger weapon than a 2-damage stick. Don't worry, we're almost done with the bad methods. Well, maybe not almost done, we're like a little over halfway through the bad method. Alright, look, don't worry about it, we're having fun, just shut up and subscribe to me if you haven't yet, and everything will be okay. Look into my eyes. Everything will be okay. Anyway, on to level 9. For this level, we're just going to use a Zonai emitter by itself for raw damage. Flame emitter works best for this because of the damage over time, so you can just run around with this bad boy and the fight will be over before you know it. And by before you know it, I of course mean bring some snacks, because you're going to be here for a while. Oh my god, we finally made it to level 10. Surely this will be a big jump up and this method will finally be good, right? Nah, we're just going to throw some bomb flowers at the dude. They do like 50 damage a pop, plus some damage over time if it catches him on fire. It doesn't knock him back, but it does stagger him, so it's a little more safe than the previous options. Plus, you only need like 400 bomb flowers to get the job done. Light work. At level 11, we're going to fuse a cannon to a shield or something and shoot him with it. It takes a ton of battery, so it's pretty resource heavy, but it does a bit of damage and slightly pushes him back, so you might eventually be able to shove him into a wall for a big hit. At level 12, we have finally reached a method that some people might use. If you use any weapon and just hit him with 2 combo finishers in a row, you'll be able to knock him back and get some of that sweet wall damage. I tested this with different weapons and fuses and it doesn't change anything. You need the 2 back-to-back combo finishers to stagger and then knock him back. At level 13, for a slightly faster method, you can throw an elemental fruit at him to get the stagger, then just use 1 combo finisher for the knockback. Level 14 is the final level of what I consider to be the bad methods, and for this one it's basically just doing as much damage as possible without knocking him into a wall, so you can use something like a 5-shot bow with bomb flowers to whittle down his health much faster than all of the levels before this. Wow, we made it. I didn't think I'd see the day. This script ended up so bottom heavy with all these bad methods. Some of them are pretty cool though, I'm happy with it. Anyway, onto the mid-levels that are like decently efficient ways to beat Seized Construct, we have level 15. I call these girls the twins. Notice how the robots on my side are girls and the bad robot is a guy? Yeah, you could say I'm an ally. Captain Woke reporting for duty. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the twins. One of them has a frost emitter and the other has a cannon. Twin 1 freezes him, Twin 2 knocks him back into a wall for big damage. He does like to do this move where he deletes constructs though, so this method can be pretty costly. At level 16 we have the Bomb Flower Shield Parry. Fuse a Bomb Flower to a shield and parry the nerd's attacks. The parry staggers him and the explosion knocks him back, getting you the coveted wall damage. This method is absolutely top tier in terms of aura farming, but it requires a little bit of skill to parry his attacks so it doesn't quite reach the upper echelons. At level 17, you can just flurry rush his attacks. It takes a little skill, but it's still relatively easy, you can do it with any weapon, and the final hit in the flurry will knock him back. At level 18, we have 2 quick spin attacks with a one-handed weapon. If you spin the left stick and then hit Y, it'll do an instant spin attack so you don't have to charge it. 2 of those and that boy is knocked back into a wall. And now we've made it to our final 3 methods, the ones that I consider to be absolutely top tier. But real quick before we get into those, let's talk about a few of the methods I tried that didn't work at all, because I know some of you are getting ready to suggest these in the comments. We tried pushing him around with gusters, fans, and springs, and we also tried freezing him first and then pushing him around, but none of that worked. Then we tried a 2-handed spin attack, and that also didn't knock him back. I guess I probably should have just included that in one of the low levels since it deals damage, but I forgot. Sue me. Level 19, you're going to need the Soldier's Broadsword. This bad boy has the Quick Charge ability, which lets you perform spin attacks faster. 1 fully charged spin is all it takes to send that dweeb sprawling. At level 20, all you need to do is just fuse a Lizalfo's tail to a Soldier's Broadsword and do 1 quick spin attack. The tail basically gives you a second hit, so you get a 2-for-1 deal on the stagger and knockback wombo combo. Finally, at level 21, we have what I consider to be the best way to beat Seized Construct without using Mineru, the Earthquake Manual. It does take 2 hits, 1 to stagger him and 1 to knock him back into a wall, but it is by far the most efficient way to beat him because it doesn't use up any weapon durability or items. Although you'll probably need to have some kind of elemental fruit or something on hand for phase 2 when he flies up above you. Gotta bring him back down to earth somehow. I know ending on 21 isn't that satisfying because it's not a nice even number that's divisible by 10, but just pretend we're playing blackjack. What do you say when you go to 21 in blackjack? Yahtzee? Bingo? Maybe we should all just scream blackjack. Thanks for watching.